Hey everybody, I am Dave and I am live today. Okay, let's see what it's doing. I'm waiting for my version of the stream to catch up. All right, so I didn't decide to go live until sometime early yesterday morning. Uh, my days have been getting all mixed up. The only 2 days of a week that I know what day they are is Tuesdays and Thursdays because that's when I'm up, and then I go towards town and I work out my cardio rehabilitation, which is working quite well. I When I first started, there was these machines just kind of work. I wasn't allowed to use my arms for the first actually month and a half, and then I could start using my arms. So now I do a full body workout using the elliptical, which gives me the most what it's like to walk around in thick snow with snowshoes. The difference is the elliptical just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And then I'll stop after about 10 minutes, rest. Then I'll do another 5 minutes rest. And last Thursday I did 22 minutes. And one of the PT nurses came out. She had a towel because she said I was quite sweaty. And I was. I mean, sweat was just pouring off of me. And so, in a lot, that's working. Um, I've, just trying to make sure everything is good. I've got this fancy little watch doohickey, which keeps tabs on my heart rate, my blood pressure, and a few other things it monitors. But I am almost to the point of being paranoid when I think about my heart rate because just a couple of days after surgery, and I was already out of ICU, my heart just went wild. Uh, and they had to convert it, which means they stopped what it was doing and got it back into a normal da-dum, da-da, da-dum, da-da rhythm using a drug. And I don't know, I don't think you'll see it on this, but yeah, actually right there, that dark spot, that's the scar. That vein was pretty screwed screwed up right there because that's where the IV went with this drug. And it does that. It kind of burns your first 2 or 3 inches of your veins if they push it in as fast as they were pushing it in. Normally, most people just get one little bag and it takes like maybe 6 hours to drain. They took one of the little bags and they pushed that into me. And then for 24 hours, they just kept adding more and more bags because my heart was out of control. The cardiologist says the top part was doing this number. The bottom part, which gets its clue what to do from the top part, didn't know what to do, so it was beating really fast too. I think my heart rate was up to like 150-ish, something like that. It was a really unpleasant experience. Let's just put it that way. It was very unpleasant. Okay, so I got 5 people. Hey, Patrick, Julie, Rita. All right, a couple of things before I get into doing a reading. I have been working, well, I'm expecting a press proof middle of next week, another couple of days, but oh, look at this big ass printout. Look at that. That is the paperback cover. And I did this printout to give me an idea of what it's going to look like. This is great. I haven't had a printer that would do. I've had printers before that did the 8.5 by 11s, but I've never had one that could give me the entire thing. And this was outputted just here. I didn't have to go anywhere. Didn't have to. Well, yeah, you pay a lot of money for this sort of shit, but oh my goodness, it makes it so much easier. I can see the flaws in the layout. and then I can get in, I can make those changes without going through the time of waiting for a press proof and the time spent, waiting for the new one. I can, okay, good, the cover's ready to go. I need to make another print out of this because I've got another cover that is for the hardback. I don't have one here to show you, but a lot of hardback books. Yeah, let's go to the cookbook. A lot of hardback books with this, they got that little flappy thing in there, so I got to set that up. And this is an excellent cookbook if you want to cook real Texas food. Even has a pecan praline recipe, which I think I made a couple batches back in like 2006 with it. They did really good. I just, the last thing I need is, 5 or 6 pounds of pecan praline sitting around here, because I have very little self-control when it comes to pecans. I'm not supposed to have pecans because they contain oxalate. All right. So, Asmodeus book should be out as soon as I check through the first press proof and do another proof run. I should be close enough to go, okay, I can release the Kindle. Then the paperback will be right on the heels of that. And I've just now started setting up the hardback. Hardbacks it'll take a couple of weeks for they can get into the system, especially on Amazon where you can order them. I can order some as well, but it can take 2 or 3 weeks before they show up for my stock. Okay. Yeah, the dust jacket is what do they call it. And these hardbacks are different is that I can also have a really detailed laminate jacket on there. So it's going to be a little different than the dust jacket. Yeah, just about ready. And okay, so give me a second here so I can start to there's a fellow I watch on YouTube. He's a meteorologist type fellow, and he was showing something lining up now. Right now, California is getting hammered again by storms. However, there's something lining up way out in the Pacific, which will hit towards in another 3 days, 4 days. It'll hit California again, and it's going to make the storm in the last couple of storms look weak. Seriously, the meteorologists and the news people have to come up with something other than storm of the century, because so far we've had about 4 of those a year. You can't have a storm of a century and then have more storms and then more storms that are just like it. After a while, it just becomes another damn storm. This is the one that I see hitting, that I was seeing that it's just going to just sweep across the nation going south, and then it's going to go up and hit New England and dump a bunch of snow on our asses. Now I get back to the only 2 days of the week that I pay any attention. It's Thursday, Friday. Missed last Tuesday because the power went out and we were starting to freeze, and so I keep missing days. So I thought I'd be finished with rehab first part of March, but now we're looking at the second week of March, which is okay. It's like having a free gym membership. They kind of let me go out and do my own stuff. So I'll get into this meditative zone, and sometimes things will come to me while I'm doing that. So to keep that from happening, I will listen to music, not the music they play. The music they play is for old people. Whereas I'm listening to, pretty heavy, late 70s, 80s heavy metal. And so that tends to distract me. Although I was listening to a group called Twin Temple last time, And this is I would say, Southern rockabilly, bebop, goth stuff. They have a lot of things, like it's Lucifer, My Love. And, and as she's singing that, there's this bit in it. It's like a 50s song where they're writing a letter to their crush or their lover. And she talks about how Lucifer's a better kisser than Jesus. And that stopped me. That stopped. I mean, I hear that, and I just couldn't go any further. I had to stop because I was started laughing so hard I couldn't catch my breath. And the nurses thought something was wrong, and so one of them came up to me and go, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I go, "I'm just laughing so hard." I said it was something I heard through that. And given the type of people, these are normal people in the rehab, not people like myself or a couple other my online friends. So I really couldn't share that particular thing with her. They would have a hard time thinking about songs like, praising Lucifer. Not really praising. The whole point of this band is to poke fun at people who take life too seriously. All right. A couple of things that coming up is, the storm in about 2 weeks is going to really paralyze the country. Again, I'm seeing a track where it's going to track, once it hits Southern California, it's going to track over, really wash Texas and Louisiana, and then kind of curl up. So I know there's some people watching who probably in New York. You guys are going to get hit, but we're going to get slammed. So basically, the best thing I can do is brew a nice cup of hot tea and stand in the window while my brother-in-law plows the driveway. But if we're really slammed, we get like 8 or 10 or 12 inches of snow. That little snow plow is not going to do it. We're going to need a real truck. And something is clicking and popping behind me. All right. Also, we've had our power go out multiple times this season. And let's see, I think last year, I think it only went out once last year, the entire winter. So this is going to be another one with trees dropping. So we got that coming up. So let me look at politics. Pretty much what I expected to have happened after that. And the new Congress is going to be extremely dysfunctional. McCarthy is not going to be able to deal with his caucus. Well, the last 2 Republican speakers of the House have not been able to control their people because they got some wackaloons have been elected to office. It used to be when you had a crazy aunt or uncle, they would go into therapy, they would get treatment, and they'd be put in places where people talked softly and they wore clothing without buckles or shoestrings. But now these people get elected to Congress and they start acting like little children. Coming up August, there's going to be a hell of a fight over the spending cap. That's going to be, I know when they did this last omnibus spending bill, they tried to make sure that there wasn't going to be any spending cap issues or anything for almost a year, because it seems to be just a regular thing. Let's see. All right, I wanted to discuss, and this is kind of a possibility, that, well, Biden is going to run for re-election. Of course, he's going to get it. DeSantis will get the Republican nomination. Trump's going to try to run third party unless he's under indictment. That's what I'm seeing. Trump will still be a spoil, but not as bad. I don't know, Patrick, you may have something about this, but I just see it being another blue wave in 2024. But then I see Biden resigning due to health concerns. Kamala Harris becomes president. She appoints the current minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries. She appoints him and asks him to be vice president, which then sets up for a continuation in 2028 for Biden and Jeffries to then run for president, vice president. You see that too? Okay, yeah. We see such a broken Republican Party where it's. I think the motto for the 118th Congress is "shit show on the shingle," and that's going to continue. So people are going to be so mad at the Republicans. And yeah, Rita, they're going to charge him, but they're going to have indictments, and he's going to fight it every step of the way, and that's why I'm thinking he's out of the country. But I just get it so much stronger that he's going to run. He's going to make a third-party run, and that's where we see the fracturing of the Republican Party into the wackaloon extremists and the really bad nut tickets. So DeSantis is in charge of the wackaloons, and the MAGA party of real extreme nut tickets is under Trump. So, all right. Julie, let's take a look at Australia. You guys, I swear, it's going to be hotter than you guys could ever imagine this summer down there. And you guys are going to get hit from a typhoon. So, there are 20 Congress creatures, GOP Congress creatures, who should be kicked out. And this may be where we see a weakening of the Republican Party, because as soon as that special prosecutor, special investigator gets going, he's going to have a whole stack of indictments. And these stack of indictments are going to put a couple of people into jail, and McCarthy is not a strong enough leader of his party to be able to get those real wackaloons out. But they may drop the party and go with Trump into that third party. It's the Democrats now comprise both the extreme liberal progressive wings and the moderates. The moderates used to be what we called Texas Democrats. This is the Lyndon Johnson style of Democrat, who is far more fiscally conservative than the progressive wings. But that's what we got. Okay, so down. Interesting about the politics of a place like Australia, where Julie is from, is that what we call liberals, they call conservatives. I think that's how it works. I don't know. But they're having the same issues that we're having with the extremists are coming out. And these are people who, at least in the United States, they're led by a faction, religious faction called Dominionists. They feel that they have the right, that they have the obligation. God has told them that they must be in charge, not just local school districts, local town councils, but everything. And that no matter, even if you're not in the church, you have to adhere to their laws. These are what I would call the Taliban style people. And and it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight because they have a following that's been whipped into uh, anger by the by television and radio, and until we can get a handle on it and stop it, then we're just going to be dealing with it here. Um, and let's see, I'm keep trying to keep an eye on the time, because last time when I finished the recording and went to upload it, it was something like 4 or 5 gigabytes in size. To give you an idea how big that is, if you remember DVD players, late 90s DVDs, the entire movie in not high def, but it took about 6 gigabytes. And so a 45-minute video that I did is even bigger than that. All right. All right. I was going down a rabbit hole on YouTube, and this rabbit hole was talking about in March and April there's going to be a shift about with UFOs and disclosure, where the one group of aliens is going to want to go ahead and step out and say, hey everybody, we are here, we've been here, we're here to help you. But in order to facilitate that to happen, there are people who they're going to be able to start getting more and more imagery with your cameras and cell phones of UFOs than we've been getting, which it's kind of interesting. There was James Webb Telescope accidentally got some pictures of some things that are in orbit around Jupiter. I think I discussed that last time. So this will be interesting, see how this plays out. Although there's a part of me is a little skeptical that it's actually going to show up, because it almost reminds me of the people who keep expecting the world to have the apocalypse and the 4 horsemen ride out. Now, yes, the earth is going to end on May 12th, 2020, or May 12th back, I mean, it's like, guys, come on, Then we had so as long as things like UFOs and stuff like that gets lumped in with these wackaloons, it's going to be harder to do a true disclosure. But we need this because there is technology that we can start to utilize, which will go a long way to solving the out-of-control climate issues, the out-of-control imbalance between the wealthy people and everybody else. That the wealth gap is growing and growing. And I really would like to see the future be more like Star Trek and less like one of the Star Wars movies, like Andor. We have a very oppressive, dictatorial style government. And that's what we're battling against. And that's why I allow politics to come into this, because that will do that too. All right, Julie, 80s and 90s. Okay, Patrick says, relations between Australia and China are going to go downhill. Australia and New Zealand are going to ask for U.S. military in Asia. Of course, that's not going to help the U.S.-China relations either. Goodness, I remember as a child that China really wasn't open to Western trade or anything like that. Nixon went to China, and he was a bad president. He was a crook. He opened the doors for our medical system to be as screwed up as it is now. But one thing he did do quite well was foreign relations. And at the time I thought, I don't think I'd ever see another president really as bad as Nixon. And then along comes Trump. It's almost like, Nixon talked about all what he did with Watergate and all of that. And well, Reagan had a lot of his team members get indicted as well. And Trump comes along and goes, hold my beer. Well, in his case, hold my ketchup bottle. All right. What else? I've been looking at trying to bring back some different products in my Etsy store. But the next thing I have planned is I've got a class called Psychic 101, a handful of people in it already, where I'm going to try to help people learn how to be psychic. Hi, Regina. Regina and Julie, both friends of mine from Australia. Regina, you were telling me that you're getting a heck of a lot of humidity. Or was that Colleen telling me about the humidity? So I was talking about how, like right now, according to my weather bug, it's 26 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is, -7, -8 Celsius. And now if I was in Austin or back in LA and I'd see a low temperature of 20 or 21 degrees, we'd be freaking out. But up here in New Hampshire, might as well be telling people, hey, low tonight of 40. So there's a mind shift there. I was talking to a friend of mine about how my mind has shifted so much since being in New England. Also, it's an interesting thing. Prior to my surgery in September, I was starting to see lower blood pressure. It was easily controlled, but now it's often after in rehab they'll do a blood pressure before I go work out, blood pressure during the working out, and then blood pressure after, and it's always that last blood pressure. The woman, one of the nurses, would be just thunk, thunk, the old manual with the stethoscope, and they go, well, 92 over 60. And they won't let me get up. They go, are you feeling okay? Have you been drinking enough fluids? And I go, well, I could always use a beer, if you've got one handy. But other than that, I'm feeling fine. But so it's a lot of things have shifted in me since that. Although I was talking with another friend about what they did, and there's another thing that's happened. I don't think it's changed my ability to see stuff, but it has changed my ability to focus long enough to see stuff. I've always rambled on a bit, but so I'm, this class I'm giving is also good remedial training for me, because it's not that I can hear spirits. It's not that I can pick up threads and pieces of things that could be happening in the future. It's that it's hard to control it, especially when it first started happening. I just wake up with a dream and it's like, where'd that come from? I write the dream down, and then the dream would happen, and it's like I can't bloody control it. So the whole idea with training in this, being a psychic, is control. I mean, anybody, really, with a little bit of training, anybody can climb inside a car and drive it really, really fast. But the difference between Formula One and just some hillbilly out on the back roads is more training. And the hillbilly's going to wrap himself around an oak tree long before the guy in F1 is going to wrap themselves around something. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and that's what it is. It's learning to control this. And so I spent decades learning how to control it. And in this class, I will teach people how I can control it, and with some practice and stuff like that. And next week I should have one of the tools we're going to be using. If you've ever done any sort of research into parapsychology and ESP and telepathy and clairvoyance, there are these cards. There's squiggly lines, stars, circles, triangles, and so what it is this does two things. One, picking them out of the top of the deck, shuffled deck. Can you predict the future? And there's the card. The other one is I will stare at it, and can you pick up what I'm sending? So there's two tests we can run with those. One is, of course, guessing which be next. And true researchers will tell you that you may do this 100 times, and chance will only give you like a 4%. You'll out of 100 times, pure chance you'll guess correct 4 times. And if we get above that, then we've got something happening. And in the case last time I played with something like this, I guessed something like 50% of the time I was correct, which is well above chance. And so that's another thing we'll be doing. Let's see. I'm enjoying. I mean, I'm watching myself on the other screen over here, and I am enjoying the ability to. Wow, why is this ear so red? This one's fine. I'm enjoying being able to see myself in real time, watch things come up in real time, although I'm starting to get a little irritated with how slow sometimes it takes to get off my hard drive. I've got 4 hard drives, external hard drives. I got 2 internal hard drives and 4 external. And I've got something like 20 or 30 terabytes of storage space. So when I tell somebody I'm looking for a picture, I'm wading through literally tens of thousands of pictures because 1, I forgot what I named it, 2, I forgot where I put it in the system, and 3 is probably a bunch of images named that. So, but where was I? Yeah. Yes. So big change. First off, let's see, last book I released was in August. Oh, hey, young lady, I was just thinking about you. I saw something really, really funny, and I thought, wow. So I'm going to post it and tag you in it, or should I just put it on your timeline, because it's something just right up there with you. There. Where was I? Yeah, I'm just hands a bit full, huh? All right. You must not be at work. She works evenings. I can tag her. And it's just like that Twin Temples song that I shared with her. She has the same thought comp that I do, in that I think my goal, my reason for being on the planet, is just to be a thorn in the side of people who are overtly religious and take themselves too seriously. So, and she's also psychic as well, does magic. She's as close to a human incarnation of Lilith as anybody I've ever encountered in my life. And yeah. Another weird thing that's occurred, that happens with after my surgery, is now I've gotten this thing where I drink hot tea. Yeah, I've got all their stuff on Spotify, on Twin Temple stuff on Spotify. It's interesting. And that's another couple, the guitarist and vocalist. They're married, And that's what I call a power couple right there. They're, they heavily into the goth scene, of course. Uh, my daughter, when she was 8, announced to me that she was going to be goth. I said, okay. Uh, I said, do we need to go get you anything special? And she goes, that she had what she needed. And then she comes out of her bedroom, leans against uh, the, the door jamb to my office, and she had put on white powder on her face, so she was very, very pale, and she's dressed all in black. I go, so you're goth now? She goes, yes. So okay, run along, you know, go find some animals to torture, you know. I think that was about the same time we were watching Addams Family a lot, so she was channeling her inner Wednesday. Uh, and now though, my daughter, her palette is still mostly blacks. She has these heavy duty, actual authentic U.S. Army issue combat boots she wears, and some Doc Martens. And she just she's like 5'2.5", fairly petite young woman, but she pushes out this "don't fuck with me" energy. She has one of those billfolds that's attached to her by a chain, and on the same chain are some things that she can use to subdue out of control animals, including humans. So yeah, and she once asked me, she goes, Dad, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I mean, guys say I intimidate them. I go, you keep on intimidating guys, Candace. You just keep it up, because that's how I raised you. I raised you to be you and not to be some little Barbie doll. And now, of course, she's working with exotic animals. Uh, it was so funny. I think there was a video she was holding on to, trying to force feed a small snake, I think, something like that. But yeah, she got her first snake when she was 4, and this thing was longer than she was tall. She'd hold it up close to its head, just hold it up, and it'd be dragging in the floor. But that was a good starter. She's had her ball python now for, well, trying to do the math here, 23 years. 23 years. Okay, and she's also very psychic. Um, she doesn't, I mean, it happens to her. Uh, I don't know if I told this story once before, but during my 2 weeks at a rehab center in Austin, she'd show up late at night, and I'd go walking up and down the hallways. They said, not to get up and walk without somebody with you. So she'd walk, and we were standing in one corner of a lesser used wing of this particular floor, and we're talking, and she did a double take and turned back around, and she goes, "Did you see that?" I go, "See what?" I didn't see anything. And she said there was a bottom half of a torso, torso with legs. Somebody walked out of one of the rooms, but she only saw the bottom half of them. The top half had not totally, completely materialized. And I was in chat with somebody today, and they were talking about summoning spirits. And I said, I have all the time. They'll manifest in the incense smoke. I'll see like a face appear in the incense smoke. There's a bunch of pictures in Secrets of Magic group, and that's how they let me know they're there. But the other day, I summoned in the one that I'm doing the book on, and he's there. And then he brings in one of the jinn, smaller fella, kind of red eyes. it was interesting uh, because that's one of the things I do when I'm writing these books. I'll go through the rituals just to make sure they flow from a point of view of being able to read and recite, make sure they flow. All right, let's see. Complete and utter shit show for the Congress. Uh, Also, yeah, hey, Midwest. Oh my God, y'all are going to get freaking hammered by this next two storms. So, put here in New England, we already know we've got spares of everything. Got enough food to last a while in case we just can't get out. That's normal for up here. Uh, uh, yeah, Regina, yeah, that is an orchestrated thing. Uh, there are some things that are going to be come to light. Okay, suddenly this gets me on that. She's talking about a normalization of pedophilia. And there is these extremely elite, wealthy people, Republicans mostly, but there's some Democrats who think nothing of harming children. And I lump anyone under the age of 17 as a child. And when I was doing my photography, I would always advocate, I was always anti child pornography. And that is because I could see how damaging it could be to a couple of the young ladies that I photographed later who were exploited as small children. And they were really messed up emotionally. Uh, and there wasn't a lot I could do to help them. I just, you are going to be who you are. But it's very, very destructive. And it's going to come out more and more. The Epstein come a couple of years ago, and the other woman, Mac Getz. Yeah, that's the other one. Rapey Mc Rape Rapey McForehead is how we call him on Twitter, and he and three other congressmen need to go down. He's going to be the first, but let's take a look at this. Patrick, Matt Getz, their buddy of mine, lives in the fellow's district, and it's if you ever follow this fella, listen to what he talks about. We're talking a corner of Florida that is kind of a weird mix between swamp hillbillies and the real scary elements of the rednecks, Georgia rednecks, the type who think nothing about trying to run people over just because they're on a bicycle. And it's going to be tough to get people like that. Once they get into power, it's tough to get them out of power. Jim Jordan, he's another one. He is another one. And these are also the people that helped organize that insurrection attempt from 2 years ago. So, but yeah, so it's not just you, Regina. I want to take a look at that real quick if I can. We're going to find out there are going to, yeah, I'm holding up the number 3. 3 more people in power that are going to be implicated. One is a low-level politician, Arizona. The other 2 are national politicians. In other words, they go to Congress. Indiana and Ohio. So, all right. Of course, they're extremely religious men. And it seems like the more religious somebody is in that, I mean, you've got your very devout Catholics. You have your very devout Hebrews and stuff like that. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the ones that are just out there. And there's certain religious sects that tend to attract these type of guys. because they preach that the men are in charge. So they will use the I am the preacher or I am the coach, therefore you got to do what I tell you to do, even if it means I rape you and that you're, well underage. So evangelicals, yeah. And the evangelicals, don't get them confused with Christians, because they ignore all of Christ's teachings. Whether you believe that Christ actually was there or not, they ignore all that. And that is because they use it as a jumping off point to acquire wealth and power. And power, that's why men get into this, because they are powerless if they have to meet with an equal. If a woman is an equal to a man, then they feel disempowered. Whereas they got to understand it's it's black and white, it's yin and yang, uh, and that's why people like some of like uh, several of my friends, they tend to intimidate men, and that's because they don't they do what the hell they want, and they want to be as powerful as a man, and that just really intimidates men. Matt Getz is a bully because he just can't deal with a woman his own age, because a woman his own age will not put up with the bullshit that he is. Yeah. So, yeah, they're more cults than anything else. All right. Been recording now for 45 minutes. God knows how big of a file this is going to be. All right, I want to recap. Continued splitting of the Republican Party. The shit show on parade all of last week is a good example of that. I'll be surprised if the Republicans in Congress can pass a resolution, whether they go to the bathroom at 10 o'clock or 10:15, that sort of thing. I mean, they just, there was a point in time in the late 70s and during the 80s where the Democrats were seen as out of control and chaotic. So I guess it's now rolling around where it's the Republicans. Storms through, there's a big one. It's still looking like it's forming. It's going to hit there in California. Central Southern California. It's going to hit really bad around Saturday next week. And by the time we get to the 17th, 18th, it'll be hitting up here. If you're in the Midwest, U.S., yeah. There will be a typhoon. I see in about 6 to 8 weeks, one there in the Pacific, which is going to hit the northern sections of Australia, and then on into Indonesia. It's going to be that's going to be a nasty one. Okay. Continued fracturing of the Republican Party. I talked about that. Patrick, do you have anything to add to that, or did I miss something? I got kind of off on a rapey McForehead thing here. Yeah, relations between there. Big shift personnel collectively in March, April. Yeah, March and April is also when they say that they're going to start the disclosure, where these so-called aliens are going to make themselves known. And that's going to be a real paradigm shift. But in reality, I don't know what's going to happen. I am looking for some reason, I'm really looking forward to March, because I think it's this year I'm going to be in much better health. I'll be able to get a lot more accomplished out in the woods. But in about another 3 weeks, I start a master class. I'm not giving the class, I am taking it. And the result of this will be a package to pitch to one of the big cable companies about my book series, The Furies. I'm going to turn that sumbitch into a television show. I have had dreams about it being a TV show and it being another Game of Thrones. Which means I have to go through this, what I've written already, and figure out who all in the first book I want to kill. I mean, those of you who've read my 2 books, you have no idea how close I came to killing Dan off in the second book. I mean, real close, where he was dead when they got out of the underworld instead of being just knocked out. I came real close to that, really did. And so we'll see when we start turning this into a TV series, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. I was writing one of the scenes where Dan's niece gets killed, and I hadn't really conceived that scene too well. And I was at a Starbucks in central San Diego. That's the year I spent in San Diego. And it must have been on what I called a migratory route for young women that were going back and forth. There was a little San Diego college there. And these little twittering birds, best you could say, they were like little blonde twittering birds. So these girls came in and they were just, oh my God. And I'm watching them. I'm thinking, all right, the tall one, I'm going to kill her. And that's where suddenly Dan had a niece that then who was murdered and got things going. So, yeah. So, yeah, never piss off a writer, never get in our way, because then you'll become a character who gets killed off. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. My throat's getting ticklish. Trying to keep it to under an hour, and here we are at 55 minutes. All right, any last things here? Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm not sure what my social media footprint's going to be like. Once this sells as a television series, I'm going to push myself in to become one of the producers, possibly direct a few episodes, but most be creator, which means you're an executive producer, which means I'll be spending a lot of time on it. Fortunately, the way things work now, the only time I'll have to spend on set is when we're actually shooting. I'm not going to have to spend any of the writing time in Los Angeles because I can write from up here. So that's good. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. There will be I'll upload a version of this to the Magic Group. Actually, I'll upload it to my page, and then I'll link it to there. So that's it. I'm done. Well, we'll see what happens. Do I do another live here soon? Maybe, maybe not. Have to see how I'm doing. And yeah, staying safe, warm. It's what is it outside now? Yeah, it's still. Yeah, it's 23 degrees. That's 23 Fahrenheit, not 23 Celsius. 23 Fahrenheit. I don't mind saying 23 degrees Celsius. I like 23 degrees Celsius. I'm not too fond of 23 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Okay. Bye.